Hi, how are you? Are you ready for another story? We are going to read another story from this giant book. Today we are going to read about the giant who was afraid of butterflies. Okay. Now each of these little stories starts with a little poem, so we'll read this little poem. George, the unusual giant, never was cross or defiant. And oddest of all, George really was small. He was just a peanut of a giant. All right, the giant who's afraid of butterflies. There used to be a cranky witch who lived at the top of a hill in a creaky old house with 11 black cats and any number of spiders and bats. In the valley below lived a huge giant whose thundering footsteps shook the ground when he walked around. The witch despised the giant because every time he went walking, the ground shook so much that bats kept tumbling from her ceiling and plopping into her lap or her soup. Sometimes the witch became so angry that she would leap onto her broom and streak down over the valley to scold the giant. But to the huge giant, the witch looked no bigger than a pesky mosquito buzzing around his head. He never paid much attention to her, and that made her angrier still. Finally, the witch decided to cast an evil spell on the giant. Far into the night, she stirred her bubbling pot and added witchy things like poison ivy and pig's toes and thistles. She muttered and cackled and screeched till at last the spell was ready. Then she rolled her eyes and croaked, "Boil and bubble, witch's brew. I'll fix that giant when I'm through. When I've cast my evil spell, tomorrow he won't see so well. My spell will play tricks on his eyes to make things look 2 times his size." Very nice. Maybe if the giant had just talked to her or something. But there you go. Well, the next morning, the giant opened his eyes and looked to see what sort of day it was. The first thing he saw was a squirrel scampering down a tree. Because of the witch's evil spell, the squirrel looked 2 times bigger than the giant. It's like everything is so big. With a frightened roar, he leaped backwards and knocked down 3 trees. A bird landed on the grass to hunt worms. To the giant, the bird looked twice his size. This time he fell into a pond and splashed out most of the water. Everything the poor giant saw looked bigger than he was. A butterfly scared him silly. Look, there he is. It's not really that way, but everything he sees is like twice as big as he is. So he's scared of everything. A dragonfly looked big enough to drag him off. When a fuzzy caterpillar crawled toward him, the giant became so upset that he ran to the far end of the valley. Ooh. Crazy. Just then, the cranky witch zoomed overhead, cackling. "How do you like my magic spell?" she shrieked. Now perhaps you'll behave yourself and stop stomping around, shaking the ground, and disturbing my supper." To the giant, the witch looked huge as she zipped around his head, shaking with fright. He dashed out of his valley and around the far side of the hill to hide. It happened that a small village lay on the other side of the hill. A little boy from the village was walking down the road. When the giant saw the boy, he tripped over a farmer's barn and smashed it as flat as a dinner plate. "Don't hurt me," he cried. "You're bigger than I am." "That's silly," the boy said. "I'm only a little boy. You're a great big giant." "I know," the giant sighed, "but the witch on the hill has cast a spell on me, and now everything I see looks bigger than I am. I'm frightened by birds and worms and squirrels and butterflies and caterpillars, even little boys. I don't know what I'm going to do." The little boy sat down beside the giant and helped him think. After a while, he had an idea. "See? Everything looks big. Maybe you need glasses," he told the giant. "If you wore glasses, you could see things again the way they really are. Why don't you come to the village with me and ask my eye doctor to help you?" That idea pleased the giant very much, but as they walked along the road to town, a bee frightened him and he accidentally kicked over a windmill. A cow scared him so badly that he accidentally squashed a hen house, and a puppy frightened him into knocking down several lines full of clean clothes. Oh my goodness. He's just making a mess. "I think you'd better wait here," the boy told him. "I'll bring the glasses to you." "All right," sighed the giant, "but do hurry." And he sat down beside the road and waited. Soon the boy returned carrying a huge pair of glasses. "I hope they fit," he said. "They were the biggest ones I could get." The giant placed the glasses on his nose and squinted through them. The little boy looked tiny, the way a little boy should look to a huge giant. Birds looked no bigger than gnats, and trees looked no bigger than grass. The giant smiled a giant smile. "You're a good friend," he told the boy. "Now let's go take a walk up that hill." The giant carried the boy with him up to the witch's creaky old house. She was not at all pleased to see them coming. "Shoo!" she shrieked. "Go away! Leave me alone!" But the giant wasn't frightened anymore. He picked up the witch's flying broom and snapped it between his fingers like a matchstick. With a scowl, he chased away all 11 cats. Then he let loose all the bats and spiders from the creaky old house. Finally, he snatched up the witch herself. "Are you ready to behave yourself?" he rumbled. "Oh, all right," she snapped. "You win. Put me down and I'll remove the spell." And she did. After that, the giant and the little boy often took long walks together up and down the valley. The giant's thundering footsteps still made the ground shake, and the cranky witch still sat in her creaky old house on the hill and muttered to herself. But when a bat plopped into her soup, she just helped it out. Never again did she try casting a spell on the little boy's giant friend. All right. There's the end of that story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. It's kind of silly how he got so frightened by all those things. Sometimes we think things are bigger than they are, and we might get frightened. So it's important sometimes to realize things are in their proper size. All right, hope you have a great day. Bye.